Hi, I'm Rebecca Dempsey. I'm the managing attorney of the Reading office of MidPenn Legal Services. We're here today to talk to you about domestic violence during COVID-19.
My name is Swanson. I'm a staff attorney at the Reading office of MidPenn Legal Services. So to start, I want to talk about the various traits that we refer to when we talk about domestic violence. Physical abuse, for example, hits, punches, kicks, things like that. That one's pretty clear. Coercion and threats, for example, threatening to hurt you if you don't behave in the way the abusive partner wants you to behave, threatening to leave you if you don't behave correctly, threatening to kill themselves if you don't behave the way they want you to behave. Intimidation, which could be things like breaking items in your home. It's not necessarily physically abusing you, but doing things like breaking things in your home, smashing windows, kicking a pet, things like that that make you afraid. Emotional abuse, for example, insulting you, calling you names, putting you down, etc. Isolation, for example, this is when an abusive partner will try to keep you from seeing your friends and family, maybe tell you things like, they don't want us to be happy, they don't like me, they're just trying to ruin what we have, they're just jealous of us, which in turn makes the non-abusive partner isolated from the people that care about them. Minimizing, denying, and blaming. What this means is when, as an example, the abuser punches you and then later says, well, I'm sorry I did that, but you made me do it. If you hadn't done this, then I wouldn't have done that. And also, it wasn't that bad, you don't even have a bruise. Using children, sometimes abusive partners will threaten that you will lose your children if you don't do what I say because I'm going to call CYS. Using children to harass you, oftentimes after the parties split and they're sharing custody of a child, the abuser will use the child to find out information about the victim. Economic abuse, this is where the abusive partner controls all of the money, doesn't allow access to the money to the victim, does not allow her to make purchases on her own or have any access to those funds. Using privilege, this could be male privilege, meaning I'm the man, I get to make the rules, and you have to do what I say because I'm the man. It could be white privilege, whereas like if you're in a relationship with someone who's white and you're a person of color, it could be, well, I'm the one who's in charge because of my whiteness. During COVID-19, obviously, a lot of these things are a lot worse than they would have been before, particularly economic abuse and isolation. A lot of victims are not able to leave their situations because the abuser is always home and they can't get out, or they don't have funds to get out, or there's nowhere to go because of COVID. So we want to discuss is safety planning. Safety planning is developing a plan for what to do when you're in an abusive relationship. So first of all, I want to start with talking about what to do while you're currently in the abusive relationship. Let's say you're dating someone who's abusive to you, but you are not ready to leave that relationship, and you want to prepare for how to keep yourself as safe as possible while you remain in that relationship. Be aware of exit routes in your home. Practice getting out of your home safely, meaning make sure that you're aware from each room, this is exactly what I need to do to get out of here if I were trapped in this room. When possible, avoid altercations in rooms with potential weapons. So rooms like the kitchen, where obviously there are a lot of potential weapons. Avoid rooms also with no exit. It's important to try not to have altercations as much as possible in the bathroom because bathrooms generally don't have an exit. Speak to trustworthy neighbors. What I mean by this is your neighbors very often know what's going on, whether or not you know that. If your neighbors express concern for you and you seem to think that they're someone that you can trust, talk to them about what you would like them to do. Tell them, yes, I would like you to call 911 if this happens. Ask them if their home is a safe place for your children to go during an altercation. Speak to your children. Again, like with the neighbors, your children are very, very likely to know what is going on, whether or not you want them to. Teach them how to call 911 once they're old enough to know how to call 911. Come up with code words. Words like if during an altercation you happen to say the word popsicle, that means you need to run outside and go to the neighbors and call 911. And make sure that your children are aware of what these words mean. Next, I want to talk about safety planning for when you decide to leave an abusive relationship. One thing that is important to do, if possible, is to prepare financially. Obviously, as economic abuse is a very large part of domestic violence, this may not be possible, but if at all possible, set aside cash. If possible, open separate bank and credit card accounts so that you have something to rely on when you leave and because it's very likely that you will be locked out of accounts that you once had access to after you leave your abuser. Pack a go bag, including necessary medication, important documents, meaning birth certificates, social security cards, passports, IDs, things like that, and clothing for a couple of days. Hide the bag somewhere in your home where your abuser won't find it, or in your car, or leave it with a friend who you trust. And determine a safe place to go. So it's important to come up with a plan for where you can go before you even leave. Friends obviously are an option. Family, if you have family who is willing to help you, you could go to a local shelter. Wherever you are, you can call the number 211, which is a hotline run by the United Way. And if you don't know the local shelters in your area, they will be able to give you that information. You could talk to your local churches. Churches are very often willing to help people who are fleeing from abuse. But obviously, again, during COVID, there's extra risk factors. You may not have a safe place to go if shelters are closed because of COVID, or if one of your children is immunodeficient, or if you yourself are immunodeficient, or it's possible that it will be harder to find a place because no one is willing to take you in. So that is something to consider, and something that will make it harder to.
So during a pandemic, leaving is more difficult than it would have been before because many people are struggling financially even more than they were before. One of the things that can go into planning to leave can be thinking about what financial resources you'll have when you leave. One of the things that some people think about is trying to get a job or a different job or a job that they haven't had before. This is a list of places that you can go to find out about jobs. So Pennsylvania Career Link is a place that lists openings. It's run by the state. Indeed is just a commercial website that you can search for jobs, and you can narrow the search for the location you want to be in, and the geographic area and the type of work that you might be interested in. LinkedIn is a place that you can go to connect with other professionals or other people who may know about jobs in your field. But of course, the best way to find a job has always been to contact people that you know and ask them if they know about work. Because a lot of people, in fact, the majority of people who are hired not because they answered an ad, but because they knew somebody who knew somebody. So contacting family members and saying, I'm thinking about leaving, but I need to have a way to support myself and my kids if you have children. So do you have any ideas about where I might be able to find work? Same thing with friends, past employers or supervisors, coworkers, or people you can talk to. Maybe they don't have a job in their department. Maybe they know about a job someplace else. Maybe they know somebody else who knows about a job. So those are ways to get out and try to find a way that you'll be able to support yourself, which is during a pandemic going to be more critical than it has been before. So apart from looking for a job, if you've lost your job, the next slide shows some benefits that are available that will help you if you've lost your job. there are regular unemployment benefits that have always been available to people who are become unemployed, and you apply for those benefits at the website listed at uc.pa.gov. The good thing about benefits during the pandemic is that there's available $600 per week extra in addition to what your normal unemployment benefit would be based on your work record through the regular unemployment system that you may have applied for in the past. There are also special unemployment benefits available just because of the pandemic for the first time. There is a pandemic unemployment assistance program, and that's available to people who in the past would not have been able to qualify for regular unemployment. It's available for people like gig workers, somebody who worked for Uber, somebody who's self-employed, somebody who's a musician, somebody who has not a W-2 type of work, but may have 1099s, or may just be, it may be a cash business. So those people for the first time are actually eligible to apply for pandemic unemployment assistance. You go to the same place to apply, but it's a whole different process. The rules are different, the application is different. So you want to make sure that if you don't have regular work in the past, and regular work like you worked at Walmart and you got a paycheck, that's if you got laid off from Walmart because they cut back on their hours, then you would apply for regular unemployment benefits. But if you didn't have that kind of work, if you had the kind of work where you just, like I said, work for Uber, or you were a musician, then you can go to the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. And that will enable you to get benefits through the program. Again, there's an extra $600 a week, but there's not a minimum amount of money that you had to have made in the way that there are minimums in the regular unemployment program. There's lots of good information about the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program at the website that's listed here, philadelphialegal.org/PUA. They tell you about the various things with respect to the program. But if this is something that you want to apply for, you should do it right away. You can apply for back benefits. Let's say you stopped getting any work in the middle of March when the pandemic hit. You'd still be able to apply for those back benefits, which is unlike the regular unemployment system. So those are two good options for people who are thinking about, I've got to get out of this house, it's just not safe for me anymore, but I have to figure out what I'm going to do to support myself and my children. How am I going to do that? These are two good options for an income stream when you leave. Next slide. So there's some additional ways to get an income stream and a way to support yourself and your children. One of them is child support. Child support, for example, in Berks, which I gave an example there of the system in Berks, is still operating. It's not operating like it was before. There's very little that actually is operating like it was before in the court system. But you can still apply for child support. If you're actually paying child support, you can request a modification of the amount that you're supposed to pay. So it's still operating, just not the way it was before. If you just go to the domestic relations section of the court that applies to where you live, you'll be able to get information about what you might be able to do in terms of child support. So public assistance benefits. SNAP, or food stamps, is a benefit that continues to be available. Medical assistance, if you've lost your insurance, which is a big problem for people who've lost their job, you can still apply for medical assistance to get insurance for yourself and your kids. That can be accomplished by going to the DHS website listed, dhs.pa.gov. And cash assistance for people, especially people with families, may be able to get TANF benefits, again, by going to the pa.gov website or to Compass to apply for these programs. Right now, there's an emergency cash assistance program that's being offered. That's a one-time cash grant for families. It's extra money in addition to what you would normally get through TANF. So that's something you should apply for. And again, apply for right away, because these benefits are going to go away. These kind of benefits may make it possible for you to support yourself and your family while you look for work or while you figure out what you're going to do next. In a domestic violence situation, often it's difficult to figure out, okay, what's the next step? How can I provide for safety for myself and for my children, and how am I going to move forward? These are benefits that are there for you. You shouldn't feel that you shouldn't apply for them because you've never applied for them before. That's what they're there for. Take advantage of them, and then you can work on getting yourself and your family moving forward towards safety. 211 is available in a lot of areas. 211 is just a system that has all the information about resources in your county at the same place. So you can ask for information about a utility bill. Maybe you have a utility bill and you can't figure out how to pay it. They may be able to give you some money. Actually, LIHEAP has a summer program, if you're familiar with that at all. It's a program that is usually operated in the winter to help with utility bills. They actually have a special program right now that's operating in the summer that may be able to help you with some of your bills. And 211 also has information about things like food banks and places that are not government run but are private organizations that may be able to provide you with additional assistance. And it's particularly important now because the types of things that you might have been able to do in the past, like rely on family members, may not be as available to you because of the pandemic. So again, reach out, find out what's available. There may be things that you're not aware of that can help you move forward. Next slide. Finding out where help is available. Summer mentioned finding a local shelter. You can go in Pennsylvania to pcadv.org, and they have information that you can search by county and area for local domestic violence programs. A lot of local domestic violence programs have a shelter where you can go and stay with the children, or they have information about other options that would be available to you to go someplace else to get away from the violence. They also list information about civil legal representation projects. Many domestic violence organizations have lawyers who actually work at the domestic violence organization that may be able to help you with some things. They may be able to help you get a protection from abuse order. Some of them may be able to help you with a custody or support. It depends on the county and the staffing in any individual county, but Pennsylvania Coalition Against Domestic Violence has that information for you. MidPenn Legal Services, where Summer and I work, is also available to help people with many issues that you may encounter. We provide free civil legal services to people who are low income and people who have experienced domestic violence or sexual assault. The way to get in contact with us is listed here, that we have an 800 number that covers many of our programs. You can also apply online, and there are special numbers for Lancaster and York that you can call that cover that particular county. The process when you call is you just call, we find out if you're eligible, and for the most part, domestic violence victims and people who've experienced sexual assault are going to be eligible for services. Each county has different staffing, so each county does somewhat different things. The best way to find out if we can help you in the particular problem that you have is call the number and we can talk to you. A lot of times, even if we can't provide full representation, we can provide you with some advice or a way to figure out where else to go to get the assistance that you need. So please call us or contact Pennsylvania Coalition Against Domestic Violence.
So back to safety planning, I want to talk about what to do regarding safety planning after a relationship has ended. Chain the locks on your door if that is possible, if that is something that your landlord will allow you to do. Put locks on your windows if that is something you can financially do and are allowed to do. Inform your work, your school about the situation, your children's school about what's going on. So that they know to be aware that that you've recently left an abusive relationship and that issues may arise. Update your landlord and neighbors so that they know to let you know if they see your abuser hanging out around your house or if his car is driving up and down the street. Make sure someone knows where you are at all times. That is very, 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 very important. And when I say at all times, I mean at all times, not just like, well, I go to work and then I'll be home after work. If you plan to go to the grocery store after work, let someone know, I'm driving to the grocery store right now. I'll text you when I'm leaving, and then I'll text you when I get home. That way, someone is aware where you are and someone knows if you are not where you're supposed to be. and you also will have someone who is looking for you to check in with them, so that if you don't check in with them, they know something's wrong and that they know to raise the alarm. Obtain a protection from abuse order. As Becky talked about with the previous slide, if you contact PCADV, you can find the domestic violence program in your area. Many DV programs do offer legal advice, and oftentimes even legal representation in protection from abuse order matters. You can visit your local courthouse to file a PFA and then contact your DV program for that representation. You may want to contact the DV program first to get advice on how to file it, and on what kind of information you should put in the petition for PFA. And also contact your local domestic violence program for support and for counseling. It can be very, very difficult when and especially when you initially leave an abusive relationship, because of all those other tactics of abuse, all the things that are not just physical violence. It can be very, very difficult emotionally, and many victims struggle when they are initially leaving an abusive relationship. And if your abuser has isolated you from your family and friends, you may feel like you have no one to turn to. But your DV program will likely offer counseling free of charge. Most DV programs have a 1-800 number that you can contact 24 hours a day, and talk to a counselor at any time that you need to. And then I want to talk about safety planning when you have a PFA. You need to make sure that you have multiple copies of your PFA. If you don't have access to a copier, your attorney, if you have an attorney, your attorney can likely make copies for you. Keep one in your car in the glove compartment, one in your desk at work. Keep a copy in your purse, keep a copy at your school, give a copy to your employer, give a copy to your landlord. You want everyone, all of those people in your life to know what is going on, and you need to have a copy with you at all times in case your abuser shows up where you're at and you need to call the police. The police can access that information themselves, but it will be easier for you if you have that copy with you. Also, if your abuser does violate the protection from abuse order, call the police. Call the police even if you are not sure if it is violation. They can tell you whether or not it is. Be persistent. Police sometimes are unwilling to help with what they may consider to be minor infractions, but it is important for you to advocate for yourself and explain this is a violation of the PFA. Very oftentimes, abusers will start with a minor violation and escalate that if they get away with the first thing they do. So call the police, report the violations to your attorney. In Pennsylvania, if your abuser is found guilty of violating a PFA, or if they plead guilty to violating a PFA, you can ask for the PFA to be extended, and the judge will grant an extension of the PFA at that time. So that is something that is important to remember as well. Thank you for joining us today for this presentation. If you have any questions about any of this information, please feel free to reach out to us, MidPenn Legal Services, at one of our offices.
Thank you for watching. Good luck.